It's done. All right. So I just thought I'd kind of go over what happened this evening. Not sure if any of you even got to see what happened. Obviously, I don't go live very often. Gone live a lot less. But just figured I'd kind of give a light recap of what occurred tonight. So I decided to attend the AOC Bernie Sanders event in Nampa, Idaho today. And I tried to go in, and of course I was wearing my Clown World shirt. If you want one, get at me. I can make these for you. But I just thought I'd kind of show up and see what was going on, what this event was going to be like, what they were talking about, who the guest speakers would be. Maybe just kind of get an idea of the attendees, right? I wasn't sure exactly how many people were going to come. I wasn't sure. So I just want to show up myself and kind of just see what they want to talk about. So the event started tonight at 6:30. I got there about 5:50, got in a little early. As I was walking up to attend the rally, apparently there was about 12,000 people there, which is impressive. I'm not going to lie. The Ford Center was full, okay, which should alarm you if you live in Idaho. It should bother you if you're a conservative or if you're a Christian or if you're just an American-loving citizen of this country. Because we all know that communism does not work, okay? So I got there and I decided that I'd walk up, do my traditional videoing. I had my phone out with my little tripod. Mind you, this is what I had. Okay, it was a tripod, nothing crazy. Just a simple. Let's turn this off. This doesn't look very good. Let's just go back to nothing. Okay, cool. Now you guys can see my room with some of my daughter's clothes in the back. But mind you, so I go to this event, and my initial goal was to just record. I try. I'm not the best at keeping my cool, I'll admit. I do have a tendency to kind of overreact when I'm triggered, which I was. So I get up to the front, and they tell me that I'm not allowed to bring my tripod in. Okay, I can't bring my tripod in. I don't know why, but they decided to add guidelines after I'd already looked it up online that I'd be allowed to bring. It just said no guns, no weapons, no bags. That was the rules, right? No metal water bottles or anything like that, right? So I thought, hey, I should be able to bring this thing in. It was attached to my phone. Nothing crazy, right? Nothing that it's not a weapon, in my opinion. But I'm assuming because of the fact that I appear to have this Clown World shirt on, white guy, I got this haircut. Yeah, would rather have eaten a rotten egg. I feel you. It's not something that I went to go enjoy. I didn't go to watch it and take it in and listen to their communist indoctrination, okay? But I figured we wouldn't really know what it is that they had to say until I recorded it. So I figured I'd go in and listen to what they had to say. I figured I'd sit there for an hour, listen to the communists talk about the normal shit that they talk about. Only for you, KG. Only for you. And so as I'm sitting there, I walk in, and there's really nowhere to sit. The place was completely packed. It was pretty packed. I was kind of disappointed that in such a conservative state that it was filled with as many communists as I thought. I mean, there were so many trannies, homosexuals. You got to watch my language. Apparently, you'll get banned for certain stuff on YouTube, which I should have remembered. I went off, right? I lost my cool and was a little vulgar at times. But I got in, and as I was walking around, I found somebody. Hey, Maria. I found somebody that was like, hey, we got an open seat over here. And so they offered me a seat pretty close to the front. I was by myself, so it wasn't as hard to find an individual seat as it would have been for people who were a part of a group. Um, it's simple. So I asked, and these Democrats, they were like, "Hey, you a Democrat? You better be a Democrat, right?" No, I'm not a Democrat, not a conservative, none of the above. I don't fall into the left-right paradigm any longer. I think that the left-right paradigm is a complete joke, and I'm more about just America in general. I think that we've lost our way. And I think that if you continue to believe that there is a left and a right versus just utilizing the Constitution, which we have, right? There is a Constitution and we have Bill of Rights. So there's really no need for there to be a left versus right, versus the only reason why I think there is because of interpretation, right? So the left interprets the Constitution one way, the right interprets it a different way. Myself, yeah, I guess I kind of fall on the right side. I don't know if there is a right or left anymore, but there is a strong communist movement on the left, which I disagree with. So I figured, hey, what worse could there be than just to hear what they have to say and see the age and the demographics of the people at this event? And there were a lot of boomers. I'm not going to lie. The amount of boomers was incredible, right? All these 60 and 70-year-old lesbian ladies and boomer dudes that were just unhappy, miserable looking, curmudgeon-y type of people, right? It was actually kind of expected. I've been to a lot of events, say in Portland or Berkeley or San Francisco, so I kind of had an idea of what I was going to come across, but I didn't expect it here in Idaho. And so I got in there and I'm sitting next to a couple homos, right? I've got them on my left, got them on my right, got them in front of me, and they're all wearing, rainbow gear, etc., whatever you want to say. And I was doing a video, right? And so I was commenting and narrating as what they were saying, and I was kind of just, I guess you could say, outwardly trolling in a sense by using a little bit of vulgarity at times. I guess I probably should have been less profane. It would have made sense, because I think if I would have just been commenting, probably wouldn't have had grounds to throw me out, except for the fact that it was a private event. So I didn't really consider the fact that because it wasn't ticketed and it wasn't something you had to pay for, that they could easily just throw you out because they didn't agree with your stance, right? So I was sitting there, and when they started talking about women's rights and healthcare and such, reproductive health care. We all know what reproductive health care means. It basically means the right to abort children, which I'm highly against. I don't think that there's really any excuse for you to want to abort a child other than rape or incest or something of the sort, where you have like an ectopic pregnancy where it might kill you, which very, very rarely. I think it's less than 1% of people that have aborted children do it for the reason of health, right? So there's really no reason other than just you being some sort of person that doesn't use protection, or you're just an extreme leftist and you think that abortion is a right, so you should be able to have unprotected sex and there should be no repercussions, etc., right? And so they had this House representative there. It was a state congressman, and they had these doctors there that admitted to not paying her loans back, which is crazy. She's like, I went to college and I became a doctor and I didn't even pay my loans back, and I think everyone should have the right to go to school for free. And it's just shocking to me how these people are. They think that, hey, Tracy, how they shouldn't have to pay for anything. It should all be free. And I made a couple comments, which I think is what triggered the people around me when I said we could actually afford health care for people in our country if we weren't inundated with illegal aliens and refugees, right? Because if you understand how Medicaid works or the refugee resettlement program works, there is a monetary gain for all of these refugees, right? So when I stated the fact that we would actually be able to afford to take care of our veterans and take care of the citizens of this country if there weren't millions of illegals sucking off the teat of the American taxpayer. Because I do believe, in a sense, that socialism works. National socialism more than likely would work if we had a national American, community of all taxpayers where we were all just pro-America, America first, and we supported our taxpayers and our citizens, maybe that weren't able to pay taxes any longer, but have actually paid into the system. Um, because we all know people come on hard times. There's social security programs. There are fire department, police department, which is all a part of a social service in a sense. If you think about it, we all contribute to social services that then come into play and help you when you need them. So if your house is burning down, who has money to pay the fire department to come put their house out? Nobody. So we do contribute as a group to a social program. Social Security is another one where citizens have contributed for long periods of time, usually 30, 40 years. And by the time that they retire, they then have some form of check or payment coming to them that they contributed to for years of their life. So I understand to a sense where socialism comes into play and where it would be beneficial. But what I don't support is taxpayer funded abortions, taxpayer funded open borders, refugee resettlement for anybody that claims that they're struggling with domestic violence or whatever. Because the world is a terrible place in general, especially in all these third world countries. Okay. This is why I don't want our country filled with third worlders. Because if we were to fill our country with these same people that are running from these other countries, we're going to just have the same problems that they have. In time, they will inundate our system like they have with the schools, like they have with the medical, where you just have long wait times now, overcrowded schools, English is a second language. You have, Mexicans and illegals that are coming here and getting special treatment. They're getting their own counselors, they're getting their own teachers. Like if a kid can't speak English, he's brought into his own little tutor program where he is given one-on-one with a teacher, which I find kind of ridiculous. Citizens of this country should be taken care of first. If you can't speak English, that's not my problem. Okay, you used to have to be able to speak our language before being accepted here, let alone being propagated and held up by the taxpayer. So as I was saying, I was at this event and they were talking about veterans and how Donald Trump is going to be cutting all these veterans and VA systems. And mind you, Idaho has a lot of veterans. I heard about 10%, I think that's what the guy said, of our Idaho population is veteran backed. So there's a lot of veterans in this state. And I assume that they're here because of the freedom loving and the low taxes, low crime, Christian majority. A lot of it comes into play, right? There's a reason why these veterans are in Idaho and they stay here. And I think that I do support the veterans, but I also don't think that we should be having as many VA employees if they're not taking care of our veterans, right? Apparently there's going to be 83,000 layoffs in the VA system, which I don't really know why or what reason they're getting rid of them. But if they are, I'm assuming it's because of some financial problem. And mind you, Donald Trump is pro-veteran. He's very pro-military. So I don't think that Donald Trump, who I don't support as a politician at all, he does things that I agree with, but I don't support Donald Trump anymore as a person. I wouldn't say that he's the ideal candidate, but by far he's the best candidate that we have right now, right? And most people are unaware of the fact that we had tariffs for a very long time. So that was another thing that they were bringing up was Donald Trump is going to bring tariffs and he's driving the economy into the ground and he's destroying us. And then he said something about Elon Musk, the administration of Elon Musk, which is funny because a majority of the people that were there more than likely supported Elon up until he became a conservative, right? There was a lot of liberals and progressives that drove electric vehicles or do drive electric vehicles, and they support Elon. So when I heard that, it kind of just made me laugh because I said something about like, yeah, Elon was on your guys' side until he lost his kids to transgenderism, right? Once one of his kids decide to lop off his balls or whatever, he woke up He realized that the liberal progressive agenda is destructive to the family and destructive to kids, and it's destroying an entire generation of people. This stuff is irreparable. You cannot fix yourself once you've lopped off your private parts or cut off your breasts or mutilated your genitals. It's just not repairable. Okay, they can attempt to, let's see. I don't understand who you call a communist, but you in the US have a peculiar, one might say, fairy tale understanding of what communism is. Well, Andre, I know what communism is. I know that communism is where the government controls the rights and the product of the worker, and they feel that they should distribute that wealth however they decide. Communism has led to the most deaths in history, okay? Mao Zedong, 90 million-ish deaths, okay? The Holodomor, 20 million plus deaths. Communism is not a good thing, okay? The Bolshevik Revolution of the 1917, Russia, they killed all of the Christians in Russia. So, yeah, okay, we may not have an understanding of what communism in all levels, but I know that communism is bad, and I know that communism has led to death of millions and millions of people. It's killed more people than anything else you could ever imagine. So, in my opinion, communism is not a good thing, and I'm staunchly against it. I think that communism has been used to destroy every country that it's been brought to. It has destroyed nationalism. Communism is not pro country, it's pro the elites. Because if you notice, communism has not really enriched the poor, it's not helped the normal person at all. So, back to my point that I was listening to these people talk about abortion rights and veterans and layoffs and tariffs and all that stuff, and I was commenting. I made a couple comments that might have been seen as derogatory when I said that, we shouldn't be supporting transgenders and we shouldn't be paying for their medical bills or their surgeries. We shouldn't be force feeding children the LGBT agenda. We shouldn't, because I don't think we should do that to children. I think we should teach kids about history. We should teach kids about math and science and engineering and get this gender ideology stuff out of schools. We do not need to be teaching kids to cut off their private parts at a young age. We don't let kids get tattoos. We don't let kids get piercings. We don't let kids smoke and drink. So why would we let a 5-year-old child determine their sexuality? Okay, so I am against it, and you can go ahead and say whatever you want about it. That's fine. I am willing to allow people to say what they want to say, especially on my platform. I don't own YouTube, and I'm open to debate. So usually when people comment, like yourself, I'll try to respond best I can. But I do believe that when you show up to a Bernie Sanders event and there are communists, okay, actual communists outside with a sign-up sheet trying to sign up people to join up with the communist revolutionaries, which they had said that they were. You can look at the last video that I put out. Communist revolutionaries were at Bernie Sanders' event, okay? Bernie Sanders went and spent time in the USSR. There was only one special service, and in supposedly a free America, there are many different special services. Well, who is democratic and free after that? I don't understand what your question is exactly, but I do agree with you in a sense that socialism is a part of American government, and I think that people don't realize it, but communism is not, okay? If you're in a communist country, they tell you what you can be and what you will pay to the government, okay? It's not a good thing. You can just look up the definition yourself. I wouldn't suggest you looking it up in Wikipedia or, go use an older dictionary, because everything's been manipulated, in my opinion. You can't even, look at fascism, okay? They define fascism as like something terrible. But in reality, fascism is against a one world government. They are nationalistic. They believe that race matters. They believe that their country's nationality matters. Okay? And they act like fascism is like a bad thing, when I disagree at this point. When I look at historical accounts of the fascist countries were just people that wanted to remain nationalistic. And Stalin or Marx is who labeled these people fascists. Go to the Supreme Court. And go look at the rugs that they stand on. They're called fascistas or something like that, where it's basically fascism. Okay, so I agree to a point that we do have socialism here, and that's what I was explaining prior to your comment. And I do support forms of socialism. I think national socialism would be the best. But the problem is you can't have national socialism with a mixed, mongrelized society. Okay, we need a primarily white European Christian society to have that. I mean, look at Sweden, look at Norway, look at Switzerland, look at all these places, Denmark, that are majority white Christian countries, and they can have that type of society without a problem. But once you start bringing in third worlders and people who don't believe in these types of things, all you have is theft, robbery, rape, vandalism, and all the above, like what you're having here in our country, right? So, again, I started making comments while I was sitting in the audience, and the little guy next to me, the little homo that was sitting next to me, felt uncomfortable. Obviously, he didn't say anything to me. I didn't threaten him. I didn't look at him and call him a faggot, nothing like that. I basically just stated that I think we shouldn't be supporting the LGBT with our tax dollars, and transgenders should be thrown out of the military, and all the above, right? And what happened was the guy got up and walked away and went and got security and told on me and said, this guy right here is aggressive and he's using vulgarity and I don't feel safe. And so security comes over and says, hey, you, we need you to leave. And I said, why? What did I do? Well, they said, this is a private event and you can't be here. You are no longer welcome. I said, all right, fine. It's all good. But whatever. You guys clearly don't want a white Christian in here, which I wasn't acting very Christian if you'd ask me. I was being pretty vulgar, pretty profane, which I could have done better. But mind you, I left peacefully. I called them a bunch of effing boomers when I left and told them that the commies were going to destroy our country. And if they didn't recognize it, they will soon when we no longer have private property or guns. And so as I was leaving, I was walking out and I ran into the commies that were in front again. The Communist Party, which, Andre, I don't know if you saw my video first, but there was an actual group of communists out there recruiting. And so I walked by and he was like, oh, you seem a little bit disgruntled now. You know, I was like, yeah, they threw me out. Of course I'm disgruntled. It changed my tone. I was a little frustrated. I was triggered, as the left would say, like a snowflake melting, right? I was pissed. And so as I was leaving, I was talking to my followers, my small amount of followers here on YouTube, and I was making comments out loud, talking about, you know, what we should probably do with these people, involving light poles and ropes, all the above. In the future, I believe that there will be a day of reckoning. It's just a matter of time. I don't know how long it'll be, but there will be a revolution again. Okay, there's only so much that gun-toting, freedom-loving Americans will stand by and watch before they stand up and act. Okay, white Europeans, Christians, have been known to destroy anything that stands in their way, and that involves, it's been Nazis, it's been communists, it's been any other group of people to get in their way. And at a certain point, you start to realize who the good guys are, okay? And it's only a matter of time that we will wake up. In the USSR, there was no institution of professional deputies who would sit on a salary for years. Deputies were in their free time from work during the session of the Supreme Council. So what, Andre, do you support communism? Because it sounds like you're advocating for communism. And if so, why? So again, I was leaving, and this tranny got absolutely flustered. Okay, I was saying something about F these trannies, F these homos. It's only a matter of time before things change. And this tranny actually attacked me, which is freaking hilarious, because she was trying with all her might to hit me, and she was like hitting me in the back and hitting me in my back of my head, and she was trying so hard to hurt me, and it felt like pillows just hitting me. But it is what it is, right? She assaulted me because she can't handle my speech. And again, freedom of speech is not to stand up for speech that we all agree with. It's to stand up for speech that people might find offensive, because there's no reason to protect speech that we all agree with. The, 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 the speech that needs to be protected is the speech that people disagree with. Because if we don't have the right to have a debate or arguments or whatever, there is no society. There is nothing to protect if you can no longer have intellectual conversations or debates about different topics or whatever, right? Because we're all going to agree to disagree. There's people that are Jewish, there's people that are Christian, there's Catholics, there's Muslims, everybody. And if we couldn't have differing views, and only one group was protected, that'd be a pretty shitty society, in my opinion. I think that we do need to respect everyone's freedoms, and I do. That's why I've told a lot of these commies and these trannies and these homos that if somebody was trying to hamper your freedom of speech, I would be the first person to stand up and defend you. Like, I may not agree with your stance, but if someone was trying to silence you, I would be against that, because I don't think freedom of speech should be hampered. I may not want to hear it. I may not agree with it. May have, views that are staunchly against it. But I would be the first person to stand up and defend you, regardless of what I thought about what you were saying. Unless you're inciting violence, which I've been known to do. It is what it is, We're not perfect. I'm not perfect by any means. I've made many mistakes in my life. Tonight was even maybe one, right? I said and did things that were inappropriate and vulgar and profane, right? I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. It is what it is. However, when this tranny attacked me, security saw this. Security witnessed what happened. And this was the same group that told me to leave. And mind you, like, you have no right to attack somebody because they said something you disagree with. And I said to the police, listen, if I was to have attacked one of these trannies or one of these homos for them being here, specifically attacking them because they're gay or attacking them because they're trans, I would have been arrested for a hate crime. And the most frustrating part of it is it doesn't matter if you're in Idaho, apparently, or California or anywhere else. The left still is more of a protected class than any other group. They can do and say what they want. They can act out. They can attack people. They can violently assault people. And there's no repercussions. However, tonight was different. When I left, I went to the Nampa security, which was working the event, and I said, listen, this tranny over here attacked me. I have no idea why you guys allowed it to happen, right? You claim that we're the violent ones, we're the ones that go around and punch people and hurt people and take people's rights, but this is the same group that says punch a Nazi, attack people you don't agree with. And that's kind of the problem that I have with the left, is they are a bunch of unhinged, mentally ill people who have no ability to control themselves. Like, I've been in many, many violent situations where we're being confronted, or me being confronted by a whole number of people, outnumbered. It happens all the time, where there's 20, 30 people that are, in my face, trying to rip my hat off, trying to assault me, push me, rip my shirt, grab my camera, whatever. And they always get away with it. And that was my point. I said, you know what? I've had enough of this shit. I am so sick and tired of the left being able to do and say whatever they like with no ramifications, no repercussions, no accountability. So, of course, I went to security and I was like, did you see this? I know you did, because the security guard is who took this woman away after she assaulted me. They grabbed her up, took her to the event. It's like weird, right? I get thrown out of the event for being there and saying some things that are a little profane, not in a loud manner. I wasn't distracting anybody. I mean, I guess the guy to my right and my left, who were both gay, were a little bit disturbed and perturbed by me being there and saying some things that probably didn't fit their narrative, but that is what it is. But again, I have yet to ever attack anybody, physically attack somebody for saying something I disagreed with. You've got to have like a little bit of temperament. You got to control yourself. You have to have some sort of self-control. I have a lot of conviction. So when I believe something, I'm going to stand up for that. And I'm going to say how I feel, and I'm not going to be timid to say how I feel, even if there's a big group of people who are counter protesting my ideas, or same thing, me being at their event, right? There's a bunch of them. Some guy said last time I heard 12,500 people were at that event tonight. That should shock you. That there was 12,000 people that were there to support communism, because there was like nobody on our side there, which again is normal because conservatives don't really protest opposing views for their speech, which is honorable. There were a few Trumpies that I think they're ridiculous. I think anybody who's out there with a Trump sign and flag at this point is completely lost. It's idolatry at a point. Like, I did it for 4 years. Like, I ran around, Trump, 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 MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Just ridiculous, embarrassing looking back at it. Actually, it's sad to think that I spent years defending some guy who doesn't believe in freedom of speech. Like, Donald Trump is one of the biggest offenders in terms of violating freedom of speech. He's passing anti-Semitic laws, throwing people out of our country that say things he doesn't agree with, especially on college campuses. But again, there were people there that were defending AOC and Bernie, who are multimillionaires, claiming to want to fight the oligarchy. Okay, the oligarchy are the people donating them money. Okay, the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Bezos, the Gates, the George Soroses. These people are the ones that are funding the left, and they're billionaires. These people are not kind of rich; they're uber rich. They're so rich that their money is generational, and they're raising an army of people to fight for their beliefs, which is, I guess you could say, kind of like what Trump did with his whole MAGA movement. Like, he has woken up a lot of people. But the problem is evangelicals and conservatives have basically bowed down to the tiny-hatted crew, and they are afraid to speak out against the people that are basically promoting the stuff that we don't like as traditional conservative people, right? Look at who promotes homosexuality, transgenderism, and open borders, okay? Hayes, Hebrew immigration and settlement, okay? This is the same group that hangs out with Alexander Mayorkas, Ben Shapiro donates money to. So it's like conservatives, repetition about baseless deaths about communism is propaganda. It's funny. You can say what you want, my friend, but communism has not worked in any country that it's ever been brought to. So I beg to differ. I agree to disagree. You have yet to provide me an example of where communism has worked. So if you think it works, Andre, then maybe you should move to communist China. Okay. But back to my point about Trump and the Trump tards and the MAGA tards, as well as the Bernie tards, right? Feel the burn. This guy's like an 84-year-old communist. He is I guess you could say, a democratic socialist, which is absurd to think about because democratic socialism is not a thing. It's a created fake conundrum for people to use to usher in communism. Okay. Communism is socialism without guns, okay? But the communists have no problem murdering every single group of people that stand in their way. Look at the Bolsheviks, dude. In 1917, they purged, and they were 95% tiny hat squad, okay? And the problem is the conservatives run around with the tiny hat squad, and I don't care for that too much. But it seems like AOC and Bernie also have no qualms with running around with these little God's chosen people, which is fine. But it just shows you that they have infiltrated both sides like they have everything. They infiltrate all sides. Look at AIPAC, okay? AIPAC runs, they're a foreign agent. They have no qualms with running people in Congress and Senate that'll stand up for their beliefs and push their agenda. So I thought it was very funny today that I hear all these people saying to go suck Trump dick or whatever they were saying to me, like I'm some Trump tard or I'm some MAGA tard. And it's just funny because, again, this is not a left versus right paradigm. This is a right versus wrong, good versus evil. And I've realized a long time ago that the Democrats and the Republicans are a wing to a bird. They're both flapping, sending us in a direction, okay? If we can fight against each other all the time and not address the elephant in the room, we will never solve the problem. So it's about distraction, bread and circus like the Romans did, okay? So tonight I was hoping that I was going to get through and be able to watch and listen, but obviously that got cut short. And so I was not able to record and let you guys hear what Bernie Sanders had to say. I didn't get to see AOC, none of them. But I was thrown out for, I guess they could say, disruption. They didn't have an example, but someone felt uncomfortable, so they did. And the tranny was actually arrested. So I want to give you guys a little bit of good news that they did arrest the tranny. They gave me a card, so I do have a card. No one was arrested and taken away, but the detective here gave me his name and his number and his card and filed a police report, and this tranny will have to go to court, and hopefully the prosecutor, the DA, will decide to bring charges against this person for, I mean, it's some sort of violation of my rights. I know that a citizen can't violate your civil rights in a sense. Like, it's weird because you will have civil rights violations if it's like an employer. So like if I were to fire you because you're gay or black or trans, that would be a civil rights violation. However, this person did attack me because they disagreed with what I had to say. I don't know anything about Russia. I know enough about Russia to be able to talk about it. I'm not a professional that talks about communism. Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you and sit on my soapbox and act like I'm a professional in terms of definition of communism. Okay. I do know that the United States promoted and chose communists over Nazis in World War II. Okay. The Red controlled the Russians for 80 years, okay, 1917 to the 1980s when Gorbachev was told to take down the wall. The Bolsheviks did build the Berlin Wall, okay. They isolated people, they murdered people, they genocided millions of Germans after World War II, okay. They raped and murdered German women. They have pillaged and destroyed China. China was once a different type of country than it is today. It was not a communist Chinese party run, okay? Mao Zedong and his leaders all decided to bring communism to China, which was led by a majority of Jews from Berkeley. So you can go ahead and say, I don't know about Russia per se, but I do know that the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 was the purging and destruction of the Tsar, his family. They then purged the country of Christians and brought on Bolshevism, which then led to the mass slaughter of anybody who didn't agree. And then for the next 90 years, the country was United States. It was a United Soviet state of Russia. So they were Soviet, socialism, communism, all the above. But I do not agree with you in a sense that I don't know anything. I may not know every single aspect of it, but I do know enough about it to know that communism is not good. There's a reason why they got rid of communism. There's a reason why we fought wars against communists. But according to historical documentation, communists have been everywhere. They have been all in our country, all in our government, and it's primarily run by the tiny hats. Okay, it has been proven time after time that the tiny hats are who the communists are. They're the ones promoting it. They promote Bolshevism, and it's the same group that runs Congress and Senate. Okay, it's the same group that stands behind Donald Trump, the same group that stands behind Biden, the same group that killed JFK. All right, so I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about semantics. I understand that communism is bad. And I believe that the term capitalism came from communism. They defined anybody who loves free enterprise as capitalist, which is wrong. Free enterprise is not the same as capitalism. Capitalism is hooish again. Okay, it's all very hooish, and you can't really talk about that stuff on YouTube. It just gets you banned. And so it's a difficult situation because you can't even expose the people who are responsible for bringing this stuff to our country. And that's why when Bernie Sanders took his honeymoon to Russia, he went to a communist country in the 80s. And so it's pretty obvious that Bernie Sanders is a communist. And I disagree with it. I don't think communism is a good thing. I think that it's horrible. It just leads to death. And it leads to an elitist group taking control of all of the means of production. They take control of money, they take control of the military, they take control of everything. And anybody who doesn't agree gets purged. And so, yeah, it is what it is. And they also promote transgenderism, homosexuality, open borders, which I'm totally against. I think all that stuff is total nonsense. But in the long run, I just kind of want to give a little bit of a rundown of tonight. I thought it was funny. I haven't been out in a long time. So I did decide to go live for a little bit, and I was attacked by an unhinged tranny, which is expected. Mentally ill people are deranged. They have no control, and they have no ability to articulate themselves in a manner that's appropriate. All they can do is respond with violence. And that's why they need to be managed. These people need to be disposed of in the most appropriate way, whether that's in mental institutes or chemical castration or whatever. They're destroying our country. And I think that Bernie Sanders and AOC are going to be the ushering in of communism into this country. AOC is running around with an old man, and he is promoting views that will not push our country further. It will set us back. It will be more divisive. It will cause race wars. It will cause poverty. It will cause the destruction of everything we've known here in America. It will lead to the confiscation of our guns, our private property. It's just not a good thing. And so I just wanted to kind of give an update on that, what happened. I know I don't have many people in here, so it's not really worth rambling on much longer. The few of you that are in the room, do you have any questions or comments or anything that's concerning to you? And if you do, I'd be willing to answer those now. If not, I'm going to call it a night. I went on probably longer than I should have, but I just wanted to give everybody an update that the tranny was arrested. She will have court, and I have the videotape proving that this unhinged lunatic attacked me, and it was pretty much unprovoked. You don't have the right to attack someone that you disagree with, even if they are saying hurtful things to you. She said I said a slur, so that was what justified it attacking me. I don't even want to call it a her. It was clearly a dude dressed up like a woman with pink hair and hormones, right? Had little tiny woman nipples, and it just looked super unhealthy. It was like fat and gross, and its skin was pasty. This is American exceptionalism again. What business is it of yours which way China lives? It has chosen its own way. You better tell me about the dictators supported by the U.S. Well, we supported communism. FDR supported the overthrow of China, eliminating the Christians that were there, okay? If you just go read George Lincoln Rockwell's book, White Power. It's a prime example. He'll go over and give you example of example. Let's just be honest, man. Cuba, we supported Cubans as they brought in communism. We supported Russia's communism, Chinese's communism, the overthrow of Germany with communism. There are many examples of Americans in power, especially FDR, who didn't relinquish power. He was a president for, 16 years, as he promoted a brother war where a bunch of whites went to war with ourselves to defend a bunch of Jews who only want the destruction of our country and our people. There's no reason why we should have ever went to Germany. Churchill, General Patton, they've all admitted it. Patton says that we fought for the wrong side, that we picked the wrong side. We never should have chosen to fight against the Nazis. The Nazis were Germans, they were white, they were nationalists, and they were completely slandered and lied about. The Holocaust went on for way longer than they claim. You can read articles in the early 1900s claiming that there were 6 million Jews being killed, and then It went on for 30, 40 more years because they control the media. I mean, they control the newspapers, the radios, everything else you could imagine, television, and they promoted something that never happened. And they drove our country into a war which led to millions of people dying, primarily white Europeans, which is the end game for the Jew. The Jew wants us to kill each other so that they can then take power. And it's obvious. This isn't even a bad, I don't understand why it's seen as such a bad thing to talk about. It's historical, okay? We are seen as Amalek, okay? Edom, okay? The Jews, the Orthodox Jews, talk about us like we are animals. They call us goyim, okay? We are the goyim and the cattle and the chattel. We are to be farmed and murdered at their own disposal. They want to dispose of us in any way possible. They want to eliminate us. So they have continued to promote these brother wars for as long as you can imagine. China, Russia, Cuba. Look at South America. Okay, communism is all over South America. Communism is everywhere. Suddenly the USSR is to blame, the magical logic of the average. I didn't say USSR is to blame. I said that America supported the overthrow of the Christians in Russia, which was not something that the entire group of Russians agreed to. You can say that who are we to worry about what other groups do? But if our government is funding that war, funding a certain group and supporting those people, we are just as much to blame. I don't think America is innocent at all. I actually point the finger at America. You know, like I said, every finger you have pointing there, you got three pointed back at you, right? So by no means do I think America is exceptional or better than anybody else. We were until the Jews took over and the propaganda began, and we were taken over with the Federal Reserve Act. We were federal income tax. I mean, look at what's happened to our country in the last 110 years. Okay, our country has been destroyed. It's been divided. Um, Even slavery, you know, slavery is not what you think it was. Okay, obviously there were slaves here in America, but no one ever wants to talk about who brought those slaves here, who funded those slaves being brought here, whose boats they were that brought them here. It's undeniable that it was the same group. Okay, the same group, like I said, that was responsible for JFK's death. That's why if you look at the JFK files, look at Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, there's a group that I blame for a majority of the problems that we have, but it's not normal to talk about. It's not allowed to be talked about. People on the MAGA movement, people on the left, people on the right, they all want to call you mean names. Oh, you're a Nazi. You talk about things we're not allowed to talk about. It's undeniable. Oh my God, you're talking about something I disagree with. I mean, the Red Cross denies the numbers. Okay, there are numbers that they don't match what they were talking about. So the whole USSR is to blame and China is to blame. No, America is who installed those dictators and those leaders into those countries because they were being run by a very specific group of people. America has been infiltrated and taken over by the Jews to fulfill their goal. Don't tell you stories about communism in general terms. You've never been anywhere except your own area. But I lived in the USSR and know how people's lives changed for the better under communism. Okay, Andre, you can say under communism that people lived well. I would like you to provide me an example of what you mean by that. Like I said, I'm an open book, bro. I have no problem. If you want to sit here and try to tell me why communism is good, you have an open floor. You can type whatever you want. But this is my live stream and I disagree with you. I'm not going to stand on my soapbox and tell you that you're an idiot or something, but I don't agree with you at all. It's been proven that communism is a horrible thing. That's what I'm saying. He has to be pretty old, at least in his 60s, 70s, to be someone who lived under communism in the USSR. I mean, the wall was taken down in the 80s. I was born in 83, so Gorbachev taking down that wall, I believe it was in 83 or 84 is when Reagan said, take down this wall, Gorbachev, blah, blah, blah. So you must at least be in your 50s or 60s. And I don't know how you're going to tell me that communism is a positive thing when I've seen the horror stories. I've seen the millions of people that have been killed. I've heard about the starvation that went on with the confiscation of farmland and redistribution of wealth, the confiscation of guns, the mass slaughter of the enemy, the people that don't agree with communism. Okay. Uh, Communism is not something that I've ever heard anything positive about. Uh, I've read books about it. Okay. I've heard many historical authors and I've heard people speaking about communism that lived in the times. Okay, so I've read and I've heard firsthand from these people that have talked about how bad communism was, how many people fled communist countries, and for you to say that is kind of a little bit weird. I'm not used to hearing someone defend communism. But if you like communism, you can always go back to your country and live in it. I think that China is wide open to anybody that wants to live under communism. I mean, you saw what they did during COVID. They locked everybody down. They were killing people by the mass. They starved people by the mass. They control birth. I mean, look at, dude, communist China had a one birth policy. They controlled how many children you could have. Okay. That's pretty oppressive, I would just say. Look at the Viet Cong, Vietnam. That was communism. Vietnam. How many other places have communists gone and destroyed? Too many to count. And this is just going to be the first time that America is going to deal with communism. And I do believe that in time, we will suffer the same fate as all these other countries. There will be re-education camps. They will be throwing people into concentration camps that disagree and refuse to be re-educated and accept what they want. Look at the Weather Underground. The Weather Underground has talked about it, the re-education camp. They're communists, okay? Antifa is communist. Bolsheviks were communist. Chinese Communist Party is communist, you know? So I really don't know what good has come from communism ever. I do know that fascism and National Socialism have worked. I don't know of anywhere where communism has worked, but if you'd like to provide an example or historical context or a book or somewhere that you've read or seen, I would be willing to look into that. But I can tell you right now that communism is anti-family, it's anti-Christian, which I'm a Christian. I'm not a perfect Christian. Again, like I said, I'm a sinner. I'm not perfect. I admit that I'm a sinner. I am not perfect. However, communists are against religion unless it's Jewish, okay? And that's why, as a Christian, I understand that in the end, we will be destroyed by the Jews. It says it in the book, okay? The Bible tells us they will rule the world, the God's chosen will take over, and these are the same people promoting communism, okay? So you can say what you want, all you want. It doesn't matter. But overall, today was pretty freaking fun. I had a blast. It was short-lived. It definitely wasn't as successful as I thought. I could have done better. I definitely need to work on myself. I need to work on controlling myself, not being as triggered. It's been a while. Like I said, it's been 2 years-ish since I've gone out and I guess you could say put myself in a position to be surrounded by the political that's the opposite side of me. I used to do this all the time. And I've grown up a lot since I was like a MAGA tart or a conservative, right? Or a CivNat or whatever you want to call me at the time. I believe in freedom of speech, but I also think that you have the right to show up and protest in a friendly manner or in a civil manner, in an educated manner, which I think I did. I could have done better though. So I'm not perfect, and I will admit that. I'm a very humble person when it comes to admitting when I'm wrong. But yeah, it looks like no one else really has any questions or comments or concerns, so I will probably end it here. But I just wanted to give you guys an update that the tranny did get arrested. Will hopefully be charged by the prosecutor. I do not know though, so we'll see. They did give me a card though, and so I got a card. But my goal was primarily just to show the left they're not allowed to do this stuff. You cannot be an unhinged leftist who attacks people. So Thank you for the small group of people who have tuned in tonight, and thank you to the trolls for watching and doing what you do. You're always trolling at the best, making sure to tell me how you feel and tell me how I'm wrong, which is fine because that's your right. So I'll let you guys go. Y'all have a great night, and talk to you guys soon.